What is up, Early Edge family? Happy Tuesday and welcome to the Early Edge. The chat is very active. A little disappointed with yesterday's recap screen. Very understandable, Brandon Ward. Everybody happy? I'm happy you're in here. Hit the like button if you could. 3 and 4. Listen, we said it yesterday. This is going to come down to Lance Lynn and this Braves game. Cardinals obviously played really well. Lance Lynn played well. We kind of had it turn on that. We were 3 and 4. It's not a terrible day, but it's certainly not a good day. This is not what we want to see. I've been ice cold as well. I got to cop to it. We have had some good days. We've had some bad days over the last couple of weeks. We're going to turn it around with the stars of the show. We're going to turn it around with prop stars of the show and the maestro. We got a lot to cover. By the way, I know there's some soccer games. We got a SportsLine soccer pick, and I know we have some soccer cappers in the chat, and I can't imagine they're not going to be putting some picks out there as well. Maestro, prop stars, let's talk some football. We are Dexter Manley days away from NFL kickoff. Of course, everybody knows former commander, former Washington player, 72 days away from kickoff. That is right around the corner. Maestro, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk some NFC West Division futures. We're going to be doing this every week, breaking down division futures. We've already covered 2 divisions. We got 5 or 6 more to tackle, 5 more after today. We've got the NFC West, which I think is very interesting. And I know PropStars thinks it's very interesting because we were talking pre-show about a couple of teams that are perhaps a little under the radar. So let's start with NFC West Division. Then we'll maybe go into a prop, and then we'll get into our official picks. Obviously, Larry Sanfran leads the way, minus 195. Tough to argue that, but it is easy to argue betting that number. Then we have the Rams at plus 330, the Seahawks at plus 700, and the Arizona Cardinals bringing up the rear at plus 1,300. Larry, anything sticking out to you from a value standpoint here?
Well, this division sticks out because I think you have 3 good teams and 1 very entertaining team in the Arizona Cardinals. This is going to be a very strong division. I just think the Niners, the brutal schedule that they got, you play 4 teams coming off buys, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Cowboys, and the Seahawks. Historically, when you don't have a buy and another team has a buy, it's a tough spot. Plus, Brandon Ayuk's situation still up in the air. He means a lot to that offense. So there's no way I'm laying $2 with the Niners, but I can make a very good case, I believe, for the LA Rams, who draft Jared Verse and Braden Fisk, who are day 1 starters up front on defense. They get Colby Parkinson. I think that's an underrated signing. I think he was totally underused in Seattle, a very good tight end. And they help Matthew Stafford stay healthy, but they get Jonah Jackson from the Detroit Lions, and they beef up that offensive line. If Stafford stays healthy, why can't they win the division? They were the best team down the stretch last year. If you remember, the only loss they had was on an overtime punt return at Baltimore in the entire second half of the season. Then they lose by 1 point at the Detroit Lions. So I can make a good case for the Rams at plus 330.
Go back and watch the Rams' final drive. It was pass interference on Puka Nacua. It wasn't called. The Rams would have won that game. Listen, it comes down to a game of inches, and I understand Detroit ultimately won the game. I'm not quibbling over that, but the Rams very easily could have won that game and honestly been the representative out of the NFC in the Super Bowl. I mean, that's just the reality of it. They would have had to win another game as well. But I think the Rams, prop stars, they're super sneaky. And you know, listen, I think Kyle Shanahan's the best coach in the league. I think people will argue with me there, especially in clutch time. He hasn't really shown up, but that's what I've been saying the last few years. But I got to say, Sean McVay probably doesn't get the credit he deserves because he doesn't have the all-star roster, especially at the skill position. Now he does have some guys, don't get me wrong, but he doesn't have what Kyle Shanahan has, and yet he keeps producing winning seasons. What are your thoughts on this Rams team who is without Aaron Donald, and is there another team that is sneaky in the NFC West?
Yeah, the Rams are an interesting team. I thought Maestro made a solid case. I do really like the Rams defense. I think it's an underrated unit. Obviously, losing a player of Aaron Donald's caliber is going to sting, but they've retooled nicely on the defensive line. They really had a phenomenal draft last year, just got a tremendous amount of production along the defensive line, kind of making that loss of Aaron Donald a lot more palatable. So I do think the Rams have a nice mix of veterans, some really good young players, specifically on that defense. The arrows pointed up there. Offensively, it just really hinges on Matthew Stafford. If he's able to stay healthy, the Rams are able to protect him. This team's likely going to win 10-plus games and be a viable contender. But all these numbers, if I'm looking at this graphic, to me, are fairly efficient. But the team I want to pinpoint is the Seattle Seahawks. I don't like them necessarily to win the division, although I could see them being competitive there. I like their chances of making the playoffs, Sia. You can find this at plus 180 right now. And this will honestly be one of my larger team future positions that I'm going to have in the offseason. I just think John Schneider, the GM in Seattle, has constructed one of the best rosters top to bottom in the NFL. I don't say that lightly. If we look at the defense, they are just stacked, loaded, so much talent all over the defense, not just the front seven, the back end as well. I really believe on paper, one of the more talented defenses in the NFL. Love the offseason as well. Add the addition of Byron Murphy in the draft, adding a guy like Jonathan Hankins, signing Leonard Williams to an extension. Just a lot of talent on that defense. Offensively, I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is poised for a big, big breakout sophomore campaign. I think if they're able to get viable quarterback play in Seattle, that's going to ultimately decide, are they an 8 or 9 win team, or is this a team that can potentially challenge for the division? I'm not very high on Geno Smith, but the rest of this roster is just so good. It's hard to ignore, in my opinion, but I definitely think this team is going to be live and compete to make the playoffs. I think they're tremendous value there. I think Mike McDonald will have them as a top 10 defensive unit. I think they have top 5 upside, frankly, with the amount of talent they have on that side of the football. It's such a balanced roster, Sia. So I love the Seahawks' chances of being competitive, not necessarily to win the division, but I think they have a great shot with multiple teams making the wild card of getting 8 or 9 wins and sneaking into the playoffs.
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, Danny Brasco in the chat dropping NFL knowledge. Be reminded, Danny Brasco covers the NFL in a pretty significant way. So always listen to him as well. Hey, listen, I want to get to our official picks. I want 60 seconds or less on maybe a favorite prop coming out of the NFC West. And by the way, I think it was Kevin McKenzie that said, talking NFL makes me very happy. Makes me very happy too. Don't worry, we'll get picks for today for June 25th as well. Larry, I'm going to start with you. 60 seconds or less, a prop you like coming out of the NFC West.
Yeah, one thing I bet already, Kyler Murray over 35-25 passing yards, 35-25 and a half, threw for 1,800 in 8 games last year, coming off the ACL, had a no offseason last year. He was not healthy. He is participating this year. Marvin Harrison comes in, Michael Wilson, they get Zay Jones, they have Trey McBride, and the one thing they have is a really bad defense, which means he is going to throw the ball. If he gets 15 games, he should clear this number easily.
Yeah, that's a really good point. They did draft a lot of defense, but this is a very young defense. They're going to need a couple years to mature into a good defense. It's part of the reason I like Marvin Harrison's over. I gave that on an HQ like a month ago. I don't know if the line has jumped. It was in, I think, 1,000.5 or 950.5. I like the over there. I think there's going to be a lot of garbage time. They're going to lock in on him and Trent McBride. Look at the depth chart at receiver for the Arizona Cardinals. There's nothing there. There's guys there that you'll be surprised that they're in the 3 and 4 spot, because it really is Marvin Harrison, Trent McBride, and everybody else. All right, prop stars, give me 60 seconds or less on an NFC West oriented prop.
Yeah, I'm going to go to a long shot market here. I like Jared Verse's chances of winning Defensive Rookie of the Year, 11-1 odds here. They make him either the 3rd or 4th longest favorite. I think he should frankly be the favorite to win this award, especially if we look at the competition. Dallas Turner, who's plus 350 of the Minnesota Vikings, extremely athletic, but just didn't have the college production. He is a very raw prospect. I believe even in the best case scenarios, it's going to require him developing. I do not see him making an immediate impact. Latu is a very good prospect, but I believe he's got some durability concerns. Also, the depth chart is a bit muddy there for the Colts. Jared Verse is stepping into a situation where he's going to play heavy snaps from day one, extremely athletic, 9.6 on the relative athletic score, which is just a phenomenal number if you're familiar with that metric. Incredible production, just explosive, fast twitch. His first step is extremely impressive. This guy's going to be able to rack up sacks right away, in my opinion. He's stepping into a great situation. There's tons of playing time for him. If he plays close to a full complement of snaps in a full season, I'll be shocked if he does not get double-digit sacks. I think he's going to make a big impact year one. I think he wins this award, frankly, if he stays healthy this season.
Well, as you can see, we are clearly ready, locked and loaded for NFL season. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we move on from the NFL to Major League Baseball. Propstars, you're right back up, but we're going to wait because we're going to hear a message from our partners.
Football action continues. Are you ready for this? Ready to take chances? As the gridiron is taken over by the Great White North. It's time to storm the fortress. It's time to fight on the battlefield. Catch the Canadian Football League on CBS Sports Network.
We're back on the Early Edge, presented by BetMGM. And by the way, Liddy said, hey, we're Trent Williams days away, not Dexter Manley days away from NFL season. Well, it depends how you count, because you're right and I'm right, because it would be like 71 days and 14 hours, or you just round up to the 72 days. So I appreciate the Trent Williams reference. Maybe I'll use that tomorrow, or maybe I'll use Charles Mann tomorrow. Another underrated defensive lineman for Washington. Either way, Liddy, thanks for participating. We're going to be doing the countdown probably from here on out. A lot of offensive linemen and defensive linemen, maybe some linebackers in the 50s. Then we get to some running backs in the 40s. Larry, go ahead.
By the time we're done, we're going to know our Washington football history very well.
I promise I will diversify the portfolio. All right, we're diversifying with going to Major League Baseball. Propstars, you're up.
All right, very few things make me happier than talking NFL. But yeah, let's go to the K-prop streets. I've got a prop that I absolutely love. It's Brandon Pfaadt under 5.5 strikeouts. I like this for a variety of reasons. First and foremost, if we look at Brandon Pfaadt, his season, he's having a mediocre season. The strikeout numbers are okay, nothing great, pretty unspectacular. If we look under the hood, however, at the underlying metrics, they appear to be just, again, very mediocre. He's got around a 10% swinging strike percentage, which is fairly average, so it's in line with what he's averaging on the year. But this is just a really tough matchup against the Minnesota Twins. You look at the Twins' season-long stats, they rank 15th in K rate. They would appear to be a neutral matchup on paper. But if we zoom in a bit from June 1st, the Twins have the second lowest K rate in baseball at just 17.3%. That's an outstanding number. They have been an incredibly stingy lineup. I've been targeting them quite a bit when playing under. So if we recall last season even, the Twins were the most generous lineup and struck out more than any team in baseball. And you're finally starting to see the books correct themselves, but there's still a little bit of that seeping into some of these numbers, in my opinion. So this number should really be 4.5 for Brandon Pfaadt, both because of his current form and really because of this very difficult matchup against the Twins. So I love this spot. Under 5.5 strikeouts, this line should have opened at 4.5. I'd probably skip it at 4.5, but I'd certainly play this one down to minus 150 or minus 160.
All right. I love that play. Brandon Pfaadt. We're going with that. And let's see. SportsLine picks. We've got two. One in baseball and one in Copa America. We're going to start with the Mets. Plus 1.5 at minus 128. Yankees are sending out Garrett Cole on his comeback against David Peterson. This is in New York. Well, that was a dumb thing to say. This is at the Mets, if you will. 7:10 p.m. start. And we've got the Mets plus 1.5. So that's... you can get the breakdown on SportsLine for that one. Another breakdown, Copa America, we've got a soccer pick. Now, I know Bradley Jacobs is dishing out soccer picks in the chat as well. We're going to the Chile versus Argentina game. We've got Argentina money line plus the under of 3.5 at minus 135. Again, that's Argentina money line plus the under 3.5 at minus 135. And I'll say this, Bradley in the chat, he says England. He's probably put other picks out there too, but I want to give him a shout out because he's always in here, always dishing out winning picks. He says England needs to win and cover goal differential versus Denmark in order to avoid Germany in their first knockout match. Expect England to win by, I guess, over 1.5 goals at minus 131. Larry, you had something as well.
Yeah, shout out to Buckets with the Soccer Talk. I know you're watching, buddy. Thinking about you, and can't wait till you're back.
All right. Shout out for Buckets right there. All right. Speaking of soccer, speaking of baseball, speaking of BetMGM, that's where you're going to want to make these bets. This promo, listen, we've been talking about it for a while, and there's a good reason for it. It's a completely legit promo, and it's absolutely outstanding. New BetMGM customers can sign up today and get up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just place your first wager of at least $10, and you'll receive up to $1,500 instantly if your bet loses with bonus code EDGE. That's bonus code EDGE, EDGE. All right. Well, for better or for worse, we got to get to my pick. And I have been ice cold in Major League Baseball. In fact, so ice cold, I'm changing it up. I'm not going with the first 5 today. I'm going with a full game, which I like. And I'm going to give out a golf pick early, kind of a little promo on the early wedge tonight at 7 o'clock. So a golf pick and Major League Baseball pick. And Larry, you've got an MLB pick as well. We're going to hear it right after this message from our partners. We are back on the early edge presented by BetMGM. And by the way, Danny Brasco, again, if you don't follow him, I don't know what you're doing. I would say that for pretty much all of our cappers. But if you didn't know this, and by the way, he's on Instagram as well. Danny's been covering cricket as well. Not just an NFL guy, not just a UFC guy. He does a lot, including cricket. And check out this comment. And for the record, I mean, I don't know why I'm betting this because he's good at cricket all of a sudden. He says, Cricket World Cup, India to win at plus 120. Defending champs Australia are out. It's India's tournament from here on out, plus 120. Listen, I have no analysis attached to that, just like I have no analysis attached to the soccer picks. But I believe in Danny Brasco. He put it in the chat. I'm probably tailing that. All right. Let's go to, as Larry puts the bet in on his phone. All right, let's go to my picks. I'll start with golf. I've got top Canadian nationality prop, and I'm going to go with Taylor Pendrith, a guy I like in the outright market, which you'll find out tonight on the early wedge. I've already put 2 outrights in. Taylor Pendrith is one of them. He has very good history here. He has a second, and he has a T14 finish over his only 2 years here, the last 2 years. He's a very good course fit at the Rocket Mortgage, really good off the tee in terms of length, which is going to help him, and he's been red hot with the putter. The only other Canadians in this field, going off the top of my head here, it's Roger Sloan, Adam Svensson, and I think it's Jacob Bridgman. Jacob Bridgman is an interesting one because he's also a really good putter. Very short off the tee, though. I just don't think he can compete. If both of these guys make the cut, I think Taylor Pendrith outclasses him for 4 rounds. I think the real competition here is probably Adam Svensson, who's been playing pretty well, pretty consistent, good ball striker, but not very good with the putter. You're going to need to be good with the putter here, and Adam Svensson hasn't had that for quite some time. He gained with the putter last tournament, but the prior 5 or 6 actually lost with the putter each and every time. So I really think Taylor Pendrith, with his course history, with his course fit, and just with how he's been striking it lately and putting specifically, really like him potentially to win this tournament at 35-1. But as far as top Canadian, there's only 3 other guys. I'll take him at plus 120 in that department. I'll be real quick on this baseball pick. Again, I've been cold here. I'm taking the Phillies money line minus 125. This is a full game pick. I'm backing Ranger Suarez, but really I'm backing the Phillies lineup. I think we're getting a very good price, partly because Skubal's on the mound for the Tigers, and we know he's a very good pitcher. But over the last couple of games, he's been roughed up a little bit, and I really trust this Phillies lineup to produce runs like they have been doing lately. 24 runs over their last 3 games, but this is a lineup getting healthier from top to bottom, is a threatening lineup. I can't say the same about the Detroit Tigers, who only put up 1 run yesterday and who have been putting up very few runs over their last few games. Skubal, a good pitcher. I'm going the full game here, partly because while the Detroit Tigers bullpen's pretty good, the Phillies bullpen is better. I want as many Phillies at bats here as I can possibly get, and I'm going to go the full game here because they might need innings 6, 7, 8, and 9 to actually grab the lead and secure this game. So give me Phillies money line minus 125. All right. Hopefully I can curb the losing streak in baseball. Got the golf, the very early golf pick for you. Don't forget the early wedge is tonight at 7 o'clock. It's me, Patrick McDonald, and Eric Cohen. We were kind of on a nice little outright streak, and Patrick McDonald had Tom Kim at 50-1, and he got to a playoff with Scotty Scheffler and ended up losing like pretty much everybody else does. So that streak ends, but we start a new streak tonight. All right, Larry Hartstein, let's start a baseball streak. You've got a baseball play. What is it?
I'm back on the Boston Red Sox to beat the Toronto Blue Jays, who have lost 7 straight. I don't know if you caught that game. Toronto should have broken their streak. They were up 6-2, got a monster homer from Guerrero. Then they let a pop-up drop between short and third. I mean, this is something you don't even see in Little League. Then they have a play in center that they missed. Then they have a balk. It was just mistake after mistake after mistake, and it's what losing teams do. The Red Sox are on an incredible roll. They're hustling. The guy who hit the pop-up, Jared Duran, he ended up on second base. You don't see that in Major League Baseball where guys assume it's an out. He hustled the whole way, and that's the way they're playing right now. It's Bayo against Gausman. They won this matchup last week. Gausman has been good, but worse this year against the AL East. The teams that are familiar with him are hitting him pretty hard. I'm going to keep rolling with the Boston Red Sox.
All right. By the way, Liddy says the Blue Jays stink. That would be support for your play there. Fantasy Life. BetMGM has India to win at plus 125 as opposed to plus 120. So shout out to
going there
BetMGM.
right now. I love
it. No, listen, I'm going to make that bet as well. It'll be my first cricket bet as well. I know somebody earlier, I think it was Mark Hood, said, I just made my first cricket bet ever. Proppy, are you taking the cricket bet or are you laying off, sticking with your bread and butter?
We're locked in on all the crickets.
All the crickets. I love that. All right. I think that wraps it up. I'm looking for picks in the chat. We've got a lot of picks in there. Always scroll. It's not just Bradley in there. It's plenty of others. I know David Talk has put in some picks. I think Eric David might have put in some picks. Gipper's picks, always putting in picks. We really appreciate that. And I'll also really appreciate everybody hitting the like button as soon as they get into the early edge every morning at 10 o'clock. Let's take a look at the recap screen. We got Propstarz with Brendan Fatt under 5.5 Ks at minus 115. I've got Phillies money line full game minus 125, and I've got an early play on the Rocket Mortgage Classic top Canadian Taylor Pendrith at plus 120. Larry Hartstein, the Maestro, Red Sox money line minus 116, and our SportsLine picks Mets plus 1.5 at minus 128, and Argentina money line plus under 3.5. So put those two together minus 135. Again, Argentina money line plus under 3.5 at minus 135. Ladies and gentlemen, we tried to cover as much as we could. They say it's the dog days of summer, that it's slow down season, or maybe I just say that. But the point is, we try to cover as much as we can. We covered a little bit of soccer. We covered a lot of Major League Baseball and a lot of NFL. We're going to continue to do that. Not necessarily every day on the NFL, but we're going to continue to bring you all kinds of sports, all kinds of conversation, all kinds of futures for you to consider as we approach college football and NFL season. We've got the NBA draft coming up tomorrow. A lot to consider, a lot to talk about. Thanks for joining us on the Early Edge. On behalf of Jake the Snake on the 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s, on behalf of Larry Hartstein, the Maestro, Propstarz, I am the Counselor of Cash. This is the Early Edge. We rest our case.